Good morning, students. Welcome to week 2. We're going to do some animation this week. Should be a lot of fun. I only have a short time here. I'm getting ready to go to the Ottawa Festival, Ottawa Animation Festival. I'm getting ready to go up there, and I'm going to pass along a few other little video clips along the way. But anyways, I just wanted to touch upon this pendulum real quick to just give you some foundation. We can also check in on the chat room this week and communicate in several different ways. So if you get puzzled by any of this, we definitely can communicate in that manner as well. The one thing that I want you to make sure that you do is definitely rely on your animator survival kit. Richard Williams basically really lays out the pendulum for you step by step from pages 47 through either 50. And it really explains it. The one thing that you have to keep in mind is he explains timing here, and the timing of the pendulum is really going to be the foundation of the timing for your head turn. And I'll also put an example on our site to show you how that works as well. But the pendulum really sets up your whole process, the understanding of learning to do your timing and just taking things step by step and thinking things through. So you just really have to be prepared to put a lot of thought into this, take your time, do a lot of sketches, and really try to lay things out correctly. So make sure that you use your reference out of your book, which is very important. The next thing that I had here was turn this one light off. I have my field guide. I put a field guide in our post area so that you'd have that, and I gave instructions as to how you might want to use it. So I've got my field guide on here to try to lay out my keyframes as the book indicates. I want to start with the first keyframe, the beginning of the action, the last keyframe, the end of the action. We always have to have a beginning and an end of an action. Those are the two main keyframes. Usually right in between the two main keyframes, showing the arc of the movement, which is the one of the principles that we'll go over this week, is the mid drawing. So pretty much what I try to do is take my first key, second key, mark the arc, and work that drawing into that position. There's my beginning, arc, and end. The next thing that you want to do is use your stopwatch. Try to get the rhythm of the movement, which is how we're going to indicate how many frames and how many drawings we need. We will be basically working at 30 frames per second, which is your computer rate. Technically speaking, it's 29 point something, but I just like to refer to it as 30 frames per second. Just for the purpose of knowledge, film rate is 24 frames a second. In case you go to the movie theater, that's pretty much what you're watching up on the big screen. But we're going to be working at 30 frames a second. In the 1930s, the Disney studio realized that they did not have to do single frame animation production. They realized that they could do half the amount of drawings shot on twos and have relatively the same smoothness of movement. So we only have to do, for 1 second's worth of movement, instead of doing 30 drawings, we only really have to do 15. So once we get the rhythm of the movement, we can identify the speed of the movement, and then we can identify the amount of drawings that we need. If you get into the rhythm of how the pendulum moves and just get the feel of that going back and forth, you can kind of get a sense of how you want to time this out. So you can just get into the rhythm of it, and it pretty much turns out to be at that movement a half a second. If I slow that down to something a little bit slower, and you really have to kind of feel how that's going to work. That's probably going to be closer to 3/4 of a second. I think the book actually calls for you, or our instructions this week actually call for you to do 1 second, but the way that Richard Williams has this laid out with 9 drawings shot on twos would be approximately 18 frames, which would be 3/4 of a second at that 24 frame rate. So thinking of it at the 24 frame rate, You would need that for the 30 frame rate. 3/4 would be 24 frames and approximately 12 drawings instead of the 9 drawings. But we're going to follow Richard Williams' amount of drawings since it correlates and we don't want to become confused. So once you've established your timing, and this is the same with your head turn, you'd want to just act it out and get a sense of how you want the head turn to work according to how you want your character to move, whether it's quick, slow, or a medium speed. Once you have these laid out, we can lay out a timing chart which spaces out the drawings. It gives you some indication how you might want to in between your work. And so once I've got that, I start to put my drawings on separate sheets of paper, and I'm ready to pretty much animate. I need to put my first drawing and number it, my last drawing and number it. Again, we're going to do 9 drawings, so that would be number 9. The mid drawing would be 5. Typically the way that I in between this is from the pose to pose method. I'm going to use drawing number 5 and drawing number 1, and I would be doing drawing number 4. Drawing number 4 and drawing number 1 would be used to make number drawing 3, and drawing 3 and drawing 1 to make drawing 2. This is the pose to pose method, where you're basically trying to get the drawings closer together to cushion the movement in and out of the movement, basically referred to as the principle of ease in and ease out. So instead of working straight ahead, which is another one of the principles, either the pose to pose method or straight ahead method of animation is actually one of the principles of animation. If I was to work straight ahead, I would be doing my drawings 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on, but I wouldn't really understand the spacing. By actually using the pose to pose method and animating in between, halfway between the drawings, it gives me that breakdown towards the keyframe to get the drawings closer together at either of the keys. So working from 5 to 1 and then working from 5 to 9 is the easiest process, putting drawings halfway in between. The last thing I just wanted to show you is I was messing around with the pendulum in perspective, and I just really wanted to show you that I had done several drawings here to be trying to work out my perspective on this. And so making one of the drawings be far in the distance, one very, very close up, and one midway to understand how that arc works is what I had done. So I really wanted to kind of show you that I had done 3, 4, 5, or 6 different sketches in order to just really lay out these keyframes for the perspective pendulum. So for right now, I'm going to have to cut this off. It's getting a little bit long. You might have fallen asleep by now. But anyways, I'll be seeing you in the chat if you have any questions. There's a lot of instructions that I gave you this week, and we'll continue our discussion later on. And I hope you really enjoy yourselves, and I'll be talking to you soon, both in the discussions, in the chats, and right here. So, as I always say, let her buck, have a good time animating. Take care.